My name is David Lehman, and for 23 years, I worked at the Supermaximum Federal Prison located at Marion, Illinois. We were the people that replaced Alcatraz. Now, we've since been replaced by the ADX, the Administrative Maximum Security Prison located in Colorado, but we're the daddy of them. So the techniques that we learned the hard way, they're now implementing there to make themselves safe. You're welcome, guys. Now, what I wanted to discuss today was a phenomena that I noticed not only with a few of my subscribers, but many subscribers at other people's channels. And it's the worship of thugs, thug worship. All right, you're a criminal, you harm people, you're a rapist, you kill people, you beat people and take their stuff, that kind of person, like the mafia. Aren't they cool, man? Wow, they go around like pressuring mom and pop organizations into paying them a tax just to exist, or they get their employees or the business owner gets beaten up and crippled and they burn down his place. What a fabulous bunch of people them mafia guys are. Those are the people that I'm talking about. The people who worship the thugs. And yeah, I heard all this stuff about you guys that are always claiming, that's racist, the term thug is racist. If you are subscribing the word thug to a particular race of human being, a particular skin color, then I would say the term isn't racist, you are. You're ascribing something that I don't mean. I mean a category of human being that takes advantage, unfair advantage of other human beings in a criminal way. You broke the law, you harmed someone, you're a thug. So the guy that molests his teenage daughter or his prepubescent niece or nephew, the guy that beat up his mother and raped his father, those are the guys that I'm talking about. They're thugs. The guy that robbed the bank and stole my hard-earned money from the bank, yeah, it's federally insured, right? But if everyone went to the bank and stole all the money out of the bank, how long do you think before it would collapse the system? So those guys, they're thugs. That's who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any particular race of individual, so knock it off. And yes, I talk about gangs. Gangs are groups of people because they're not man enough to harm you on their own. They need to get a bunch of their thug friends to help them harm you. So they show up, like the mafia, they show up, or a street gang, and say, hey man, wouldn't it be a shame if something happened to your wife or child or your business burned down? Maybe you want to give us some money and we'll protect you. Those guys, right? They're organized usually around this perceived race stuff. So you have black gangs, brown gangs, white gangs, Italian gangs, Chinese gangs, etc. So when I talk about a particular group, I usually end up talking about a particular group that is divided itself by race. And so people in this day and age have to go, oh my God, he's prejudiced against and fill in the blank. The white guys, the Chinese guys, the Korean guys, the lesbian white girls, whatever, okay? No, I'm prejudiced against thugs that hurt people. That's been my philosophy forever. And that includes, the staff who are enriching themselves by taking kickbacks on contracts from the Bureau of Prisons, USP Marion had been plagued with that in the past. I'm sure nothing like that's going on right now, but at least in the past, they had people prosecuted for, bringing in things to the thugs for favors, or basing contracts on what amounted to kickbacks. Oh, I have a business and you have to buy something for my business, and if you don't, then I'm going to trash your application for a contract with the Bureau of Prisons, that kind of thing, right? Well, they went to prison for that. Those are real things. Or, I'm going to get a big discount on a car if I allow you, Mr. Inmate, to communicate to your criminal friends and organize your criminal organization while incarcerated. For that favor, I'm going to get like a discount on a car. What a great idea that is, Those are the guys that got caught, or the guys that got the free watches and, other gifts from the inmate for, because they were allowed to be downtown instead of at the prison where they were supposed to be counted. Those are the people that got caught. Obviously that's not going on anymore, right? I mean, we're just clean and white as snow, and all these contracts that are going out, I'm sure, are completely fair and don't need to be audited at all. No, don't audit them. So those are the kind of people I'm talking about in my experiences that I have seen. And then, of course, I've made suggestions that were completely ignored because it screws up the system. And that's what's going on in our government right now is we have people who are business people who are moving in and applying business techniques to government agencies, and we can't allow that. So those senators and congressmen that get $100 and some thousand a year, who leave after 5 or 10 years and are worth $30 million. True story. Worth $30 million because all of a sudden their husband or wife became a genius at investments. And you know that insider trading does not apply to your politicians. Doesn't apply. So they can do all the insider trading that they want, but some lady who is on TV selling pots and pans and telling you how to use tin foil to keep the Martians out of your brain, that lady does investments that are not above board, and she goes to the penitentiary for a couple of years, right? Martha Stewart. But your politicians can do the exact same thing that she did and not go to prison and make $30 million in just a few years. Nancy Pelosi. So those are the people that I'm talking about. And the worship of those people it's sick. Man, if you are the type of person that just, I'm not talking about the interested person, all right? There's like people that are interested, fascinated with, say, Hitler, and they're like, wow, how could people fall for this guy, right? His scam. How could he get away with talking an entire country into doing what they did in World War II? That's different than the guy that says, I wish Hitler would come back. I love Hitler. He's a great guy. Now, this will be taken out of context, of course, and people will say, oh my God, that white guy said he loved Hitler. No, I'm talking about a guy that, I'm using that as an example. Or the guy that says, I loved John Gotti because he murdered a guy that had a traffic accident. And his wife didn't like this guy because, people get hurt in traffic accidents. And, there's a legal method of redress against these people. But the mafia don't do that. They just have you murdered horribly. So if you get into a traffic accident and the person who's harmed in this traffic accident happens to be a mafia member, you better leave the country, man, because they're like going to murder you in a horrible way. Even if you apologize to them. Doesn't matter. True story. That's what happened. Those are the people that you're idolizing. I love the mafia. They're just so cool. That's sick. Why don't you just say, wow, I love the Nazis because they murdered 10 million people, 6 million of which were Jews. 4 million were other categories. They were shot, burned, gassed, shoveled into mass graves. Those are the people that you idolize. The thugs are doing the exact same thing, but on a smaller scale. You know, they break into grandma's house and kill her ass by shoving a knife through her so hard it actually went completely through her and stuck into the wooden floor. That's the people you're idolizing. So, you know, if you're watching my channel for that reason, man, watch somebody else's channel, okay? I don't need you. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you listen to me to protect yourself, because I'm not telling you these stories for actually no benefit to you or just entertainment. You can use these stories for your own benefit. Wow, how did that guy take advantage of those people? How did the victims, how could they have protected themselves? You know, that's why I'm telling you these stories, to protect yourself from these kinds of people. It's a dangerous world out there, and all the people that I talk about, every single one of them were once loose, and they could have been in your community, could have been your neighbor. You need to be aware of how these people think and how they operate singly and in groups, and you should be able to identify them. I see them all the time walking around in the community and think, oh, there's a guy I need to avoid. And you don't have to be Jill, Billy, macho, and by God, if they would do that, blah, 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 you know. Reminds me of the old joke. Trooper pulls over a car, and he walks up to the car and he taps on the window, and the guy rolls down the window, and the trooper slaps this guy. And the guy says, "Oh my God, why did you slap me?" And the trooper said, "The next time a trooper walks up to your car, you have the window rolled down." Then he walked around to the other side of the car, and the guy rolled down his window, and the trooper slapped him. And he said, "What'd you slap me for? I had my window rolled down." He said, "Man, I'm just making your wish come true." And he said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Man, don't tell me that 10 minutes after I leave here and you guys are driving down the road, you ain't going to turn to your friend and say, 'I wish that trooper would have slapped me.'" Get it? You all have seen that guy. Okay, so there are patterns that humans do, things like that. Okay, that I have experienced only because I've heard this thing about people are saying that, man, you unknowingly have walked past or been in the same room with 3 murderers in your life. Really? When I walked from the front gate to my post, I walked past 30 murderers. Just that few minutes. And then I dealt with them all day, 2,000 hours plus a year. I was around murderers, some of which wanted to murder me because I didn't give them what they wanted. So I can pass on some of these skills through stories of what you can do. I don't tell you, like I am now, this is a pretty rare video, I don't tell you, this is the thing that you need to do in this circumstance. What I do is I tell you what happened to me, and then let you recognize it in your own existence, because there's different stuff. Give you a great example as to why. There was, we'll just call the guy Tom. Tom got pulled over. He told the cop, "Hey, I have a firearm, a loaded firearm in the car." The cop said, "Oh my God, you're not allowed to have that." And he seized this guy's property and kept it, took it home and was keeping it for himself. When this guy went to the warden and complained, "Hey man, we're allowed to carry firearms concealed because of our job position," and this cop took it, and I called them and they won't give it back. So the warden called over and said, "Look man, this is a federal law, okay? These people they are law enforcement officers despite what you think. And he's allowed to." And the guy had to go back to the police department on 3 separate occasions. And he said they were laughing at him. They thought it was really funny. "Ha ha, we took your gun." You know, that kind of stuff. And I thought, because he told me this story, he allowed me to think about, wow, man, what would I do in that position? And then I had a plan. So when I got pulled over and was dumb and told the cop, which I don't do anymore, that I was carrying a concealed firearm. The cop went, "Oh my God," and wanted to seize my firearm. And I got a whole video about the thing. And I ended up keeping my firearm. I didn't get arrested. And everything acted different because I wasn't nervous, and it wasn't something that was just like boom out of the nowhereville. I had prepared myself mentally for this eventuality. And that's what I'm doing for you. I'm preparing you for this eventuality where you're going to meet the murderer, the rapist, the burglar, the scam artist, the politician that's telling you some bullshit to get elected, and it's just obvious bullshit, you know? I mean, everybody is susceptible to stuff. You've heard things as a child, you still believe them, they're not true. You know one of the things that I heard as a child? Turkeys drowned in the rain. What happens is, turkeys are out walking around in their yard, and they hear lightning and thunder and rain and stuff, and they look up. Well, when turkeys look up, they open their mouth. And the rain pours down their throat because they can't swallow, and they drowned. And I believe that. So when my wife and I got some turkeys, and we were raising them, one day it started raining, and I said, "Oh my God, the turkeys are all going to die." And my wife said, "Why? What's the matter?" I said, "I got to run out there and save the turkeys." And she's like, "Well, go get them quick, hurry." And she runs out there with me, you know, and she's thinking that there's like wolves out there or coyotes or, you know, some physical danger to these turkeys. And she says, you know, what is it? What is it? You know, where, how come, what for? And I said, "It's raining." And she said, "Yeah, I know it's raining, but what's the danger?" And I said, "It's raining." And she said, "I got that. It's raining. I can see it. It's hitting me. What's the danger to the turkeys?" And I said, "It's raining. They're all going to die." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And I told her, you know, they look up and they drown. And she's like, "That's the stupidest thing that I have ever heard of. I've raised turkeys for years and years and years in my country, here in Guyana, where we're at now, and none of the turkeys ever drowned. They died from all kinds of things. Drowning isn't one of them in the rain." And I said, "Oh yeah, they drowned." And I told her the story, and she's like, "That don't happen." Well, we left them out in the rain. Not a one of them drowned. It was total crap. But because I was told this as a child, I believed it, and I didn't use common sense to analyze what it is that I believed. So there's a lot of, you should analyze things that everybody knows is true. Like, if a man tells you he's a woman, he is a woman. He magically becomes a woman, and he should play women's sports. He should be allowed in a women's penitentiary if he goes to prison. He should be allowed to do everything that women do in women's spaces, because he is not a he, he's a she, because he says so. So I'm a black, half Chinese lady right now, and if you say that I'm not, then you're obviously a racist and you're prejudiced. You know, so it's magical thinking. And so if you were told something as a child, like turkeys drowned in the rain, you might want to think about, if turkeys drowned in the rain, and turkeys live in the woods, has it never rained in the woods? Because if it did rain in the woods, all the turkeys would be dead. So you could apply that to any of this magical thinking. So when I tell you that, you know, being out late at night and going to the convenience store that gets robbed all the time, and it gets robbed so often that they have an armed guard there, and while you're walking through the parking lot, if some guy goes, "Hey man, can I have a match to light my cigarette?" and he don't have a cigarette in his hand, you might want to take off running. You know, I don't have to tell you things like that. I tell you about circumstances where other people were made a victim, or how they ended up in prison, and you can protect yourself from it. Like the guy told me, "Hey man, I was driving along and I got pulled over for this minor thing, and the cop took my gun and they treated me like crap, and they all laughed at me and stuff, and it really sucked real bad." And then I could say to myself, well, how do I avoid that situation? That's what I'm telling you these stories for. That's why I told the younger guys these kind of stories, so that they didn't get killed in prison. Now, if you like this video, by all means, hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm, and subscribe. Believe me, I know I'm not pretty. I don't look like, you know, a 22-year-old hot babe with big boobs and stuff, but I might keep you alive. Thanks for watching.